Hello, I'm Rhiannon Lambert and welcome to The Gut Diaries. Today we are talking to Ella Mills all about her gut health journey. But first, here's a bit of what's to come.
A girlfriend said, well, what you're doing is a bit weird. If it felt like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me, I can take this negative and turn it into a positive.
Well, yeah, the poster girl for making veg cool. That's your thing. Ella, welcome to The Gut Diaries.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I think out of most people that I know, and I'm sure lots of people that have followed your journey, you know, Deliciously Ella, over the years, the work that you've produced, it's all come from a real genuine place of really a journey of discovery of food.
100%. It's been such a amazing experience for going from not knowing how to cook, not being interested in any shape or form in health, the wellness industry not existing, not even liking broccoli, to suddenly becoming this, passionate, my life's mission being getting people excited about making lentils crispy.
Well, yeah, the poster girl for making veg cool. That's your thing, I would definitely
That's
say.
the life's mission, exactly. So very, very different from where I started.
So let's go back. Let's rewind backwards to how it all began. You were at university, not feeling great.
As I said, I had no interest in health, in wellness, in cooking, really in what I ate up until this point. You know, I would enjoy whatever was in front of me or whatever someone else wanted to eat, but food just wasn't a big part of my life. And then when I was at university, I got very ill out of nowhere. I spent most of the next year, so this is 2011 now, in and out of hospitals, seeing gastroenterologists and neurologists and endocrinologists and having MRIs and ultrasounds and colonoscopies and endoscopies and you name it. Anyway, swallowed cameras and trying to get to the bottom of what was going on. And I was eventually diagnosed with a condition that affected the functioning of my autonomic nervous system. And part of that really, really affected my stomach. And I had very, very bad bloating and really uncomfortable. I was put on a whole series of medication and it's all repurposed. And so no one promised that it would work, but it didn't. And I hit such a rock bottom with my physical health, but with my mental health as well. And that was the point where I started thinking, well, how else can I help myself? How else can I support myself? There must be things that I could be doing that would at least give myself a better chance of regaining my health. And I started reading stories of people all over the world who had changed facets of their diet, their lifestyle, really looked towards nutrition and whole foods, which is obviously your big passion. And I thought, well, look, if it's helped them, it might help me. And at this point, I have nothing to lose. So I set about learning to cook, learning to make vegetables cool. I knew from day one this wasn't a diet, it wasn't a 6-week plan, this wasn't about aesthetics, this was how can I really support my health through nutrition. And as a result, I knew it had to taste good. And nothing lasts, you know that, as I know that, unless it's something that you want to do and look forward to doing. And that kind of ushered in this new phase of my life of trying to make vegetables delicious.
And also back then, gut health was so taboo. I bet none of your friends, when you were going through, the constant questioning with different medical professionals, nobody was saying, well, how are you actually feeling? How's your digestion?
No, not at all. I think it was, as you said, I think talking about your health in general felt really uncomfortable, certainly to me. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that, I guess to kind of get past that, I wrote it down. When I started Deliciously Ella, a girlfriend said, well, what you're doing is a bit weird, as in, you know, focusing on carrots and lentils. At this point, it was. So I think you should tell anyone who would find this website why you're doing it. So I sat down and I wrote the about page, you know, like, I'm Ella, I can't cook. I'm going to learn how to do it. This is why. And I wrote about the illness and the struggles that I'd been having with my health. It was a very cathartic experience. But the interesting thing is because I was really open about it. And then obviously as Deliciously Ella grew, that story was more and more public. What I started to find is I remember like going to a wedding and I went to the loos and this girl who I didn't know was a old friend's girlfriend came up to me. She was like, oh, I just want to talk to you. And what they really wanted to do was just spill their health story, their gut health, their health challenges, because I had, so they felt really comfortable saying it to me. But as a general rule, as you said, people were quite nervous to say, look, I'm really struggling with this. It's making me feel really uncomfortable.
And that time when you were trying to navigate this and you were starting the blog and you were sharing things, I think it takes a lot of courage.
It felt very empowering though to take an ownership of that and to be comfortable in it, because I had really hidden from it. And I think a lot of people who've struggled with any facet of any part of their health feel that same thing, which is that there is this nervousness in really opening up and being really, really vulnerable and being kind of judged for it. And I think I'd hidden away from people so much while I was ill and I didn't want to talk about it. And I think that had had such a detrimental impact on my self-esteem. So there was something quite empowering about being like, no, I'm going to own it. I'm going to, not be proud of it. It's probably a little bit too far, but I am going to be comfortable to say it all out loud.
I think you could be proud of it.
I also remember feeling like, look, this is inherently a negative. It felt like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me, kind of having what felt like your health swept away from under your feet. Maybe through being honest about it, maybe through talking about it, maybe through therefore starting the blog and the early stages of Delicious Ciela, I can take this negative and turn it into a positive.
So you'd made dietary changes, you were blogging, you were telling everybody, look, I really think vegetables can be cool, which was a really important message. And I think it's so positive and uplifting. When did you really start discussing then, oh, there's actually bacteria within our gut? Because I don't think gut health was really being spoken about at all, even when you started talking about veg.
I totally agree. It wasn't. It definitely didn't feel like a kind of part of the map. And it wasn't something on the top of my to-do list or kind of, thought list.
So interesting because there's definitely so much more research now. I mean, we know so much more. And how long was it then? You'd started blogging. Were you actually noticing your mood? Because we know, don't we, that the gut and our mood are so intrinsically interlinked. Our gut bacteria plays such a key role with how we feel. It's such a different diet for you to suddenly embark upon. You must have felt such a huge difference.
I did. I mean, I would say it was slow, though. And I'm always really conscious of saying that because I think, you and I know too well in what we do with our podcast that people love a quick fix. And I understand it. We're all the same. I've often looked for a quick fix too. But as a result, I think people often want to hear like, change your diet, change your habits, start taking bacteria and things like that, and everything will change tomorrow. And I just didn't find that. I found it was like one step forward, one step backwards, up and down, higgledy-piggledy. But over the course of a year, I did feel really different. And if I look at where I was at the beginning of that year to the end of it, it was sort of almost day and night, but it wasn't like one day to the next was fundamentally different. Sitting here and telling everyone, you must do this, you must do that, I know, it doesn't work. 99.9% of the British population know they should eat 5 a day, and yet 1 in 5 adults manages it. Like, most of us know fibre is important. Over 90% of us are deficient in it. Like, I think being told something and holding that information and doing it is so different. And I think that was a really key part of Delicious Ciela and what brought people to it. It wasn't about saying, you're doing it wrong, you've got to do it like this. It was like, no, this is just a really delicious way to eat. And then, by the way, it's very, very good for you. And, getting your 30 plants a week or getting your 30 grams of fibre a day becomes so easy when you get to eat like that because it's a pleasure. And ultimately, if you constantly feel like you're depriving yourself, as I said, it's like a diet. It lasts a few days and then you're done.
That's what I love about it. I think it just wasn't a prescription. And automatically, before we even had the research on 30 plants a week and the 30-gram target, you were already delivering that. But it was in a very organic, natural way. And then I've noticed as well, because we talk about this all the time, but how we get future generations and children involved in a gut health conversation, the bugs in your tummy and talking about the importance of supporting that. How do you get the girls really involved in your lifestyle?
Gently, I think that's important. They take Improve. They call it Wrigley's. Because the idea that the bugs wriggle around, so they call it Wrigley's. I don't actually know if they realise it's not called that. And it's exactly that. I said, and they're old enough now, they're 5 and 6, to kind of get the idea that you don't want to get loads and loads of colds, or you want to make them as mild as possible. And so they get this idea that there's a link between how you live your life and how you feel. I think they've sort of gently starting to pick that together. But again, I try and do it in this like really simple, really straightforward way. They like the strawberry flavor. We have a race most mornings. Obviously, they always win.
I know, always. I mean, what are we doing wrong, Ella?
Of who can finish the Wrigley's, the Improve first. And then it's things, again, it's the same with them. Yeah. I know they won't just eat a bowl of steamed broccoli. Fair enough. I don't really want that either. But I do know that if I roast it and then I do it with some delicious rice and some miso tofu that's really crispy, and we do edamame beans and we have a delicious kind of soy sesame dressing, then they'll eat it.
Yeah.
And I think, so again, it's the same thing. It's like those habits which are formed around sharing meals together, it tasting really good, it being a positive thing, but not with loads of restriction. They go to birthday parties and love sweets, and they'll go trick-or-treating on Halloween, and that's great. It's all part of finding the right balance.
And I know that you're so good with your morning routines, Ella. I mean, it's something I've always said to you. I wish I could be like it, but me and Ella are a bit chalk and cheese on that one. But I noticed the benefits that you get. You really need that time, don't you, in the morning?
I love a morning routine. I think mostly because so much of the day is chaos. And that's great. That's fun. I find it quite energizing. But ultimately, there's something really lovely about the idea of just kind of claiming the start to your day and starting the day feeling kind of not too chaotic, or it often ends up that way. And so I get up a little bit earlier. I try and do some meditation or some breath work, quietly drink a coffee, get myself ready, obviously have my Simprove as part of this routine. But it is just that moment of kind of peace and, as I said, kind of claiming that first part of your day.
What's been your biggest learning? I think discovering the world of gut health, I know we talk about it all the time. Has there been anything that you've really thought, wow, I wish I knew that, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's such a great question that. I think the thing is just this idea of how connected everything is when it comes to our health. I think we often have this like quite dogmatic, quite binary view on health, and actually it's so interconnected, as you know better than anybody. Like, if you haven't had much sleep, you are clinically proven to crave more sugar, and making healthy choices is really difficult. If you don't manage to get enough fiber, get enough plants, look after your gut health, then that's really not great for your immune system. And it's such a circle. Same, like, if your stress levels are very, very high and you're not actively managing them, that's really not very good for your immune system either. Again, it doesn't make it easier to eat well. And it's just this real cycle ultimately between the various pillars of health: sleep, stress management, exercise, food choices. And you can't see any of it in isolation. Like, ultimately, I think, as I said, quite often in the world of health and wellness, we want to kind of make broccoli king, or it's all about kale, or what's the one thing I can do to change my health? And there is no one thing. It's a kind of myriad of different pieces you can put together that will ebb and flow. But when you start to put them together, it really makes a very concrete, tangible impact on your health.
And I think it's also really key to remember that once you have the knowledge of that circle, knowledge is power. You can almost be kinder on yourself.
So much kinder on yourself. It's exactly the same. Like, if you haven't slept, or something's kept you up all night, or someone, in my case, and my kids,
there's always someone,
and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, the only thing I want to eat is sugar. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have bad willpower, anything like that. Like, that's normal. That's science. You are proven to crave sugar. You don't always have that motivation to get home and make a healthy dinner, but ultimately knowing, actually, this is going to help my energy, it's going to help my sleep, it's going to help my immune system, all the rest of it. When you start to think about it like that, it's like, oh no, actually, let's make dinner, and I can make it delicious.
Exactly. Feed the gut bugs and have a happy gut. Ella, thank you for sharing such, I think, just an incredibly inspiring journey, because honestly, I think for someone to go from hating vegetables or not really being interested to now being, like I said at the start, kind of the role model for so many, I think, to the Gut Diaries here today, it's a testament to the power that we actually have to do something good for ourselves. So thank you for coming on the Gut Diaries.
Well, thank you for having me.